One more minute. Oh no, 8:30. Right, we're on? Okay. Good morning, everybody. That includes public, councillors and staff. Welcome to the 22nd of May meeting of Te Puna Kōrero. This is a hearings meeting for our annual plan and local water done well. So let's start with a karakia. And Taku, would you please lead us? Kia. Thank you very much, Taku. Let's start with item 2 on the agenda. Well, we've already done item 1. Item 2, apologies, we have none, noting that Councillor Tracy Thompson has a leave of absence. Don't need to... Johnson, what did I say? Johnston. Yeah, that's a married name, yeah. Sorry, Tracy. We don't need to put that. Public forum, well, we're here at meeting schedule, but there is nobody that wants to speak in public forum, aside from those people sitting here for the hearings. Any conflict of... Is that right?
Yes, it was correct. You accepted it.
Sorry, yeah, but it's not, it's not in the... I apologise. Would you like to come forward now? And you have 5 minutes.
Name Andrew Fraser.
Name Andrew Fraser. Yep, Andrew. You want to sit there and push the button there, and you'll get green on the. Apologies for that, Andrew. It wasn't on my...
No, that's fine. These things happen. Good morning, councillors, Mayor Baker, and Porirua City Council staff. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. It is one of those useful things. What I've come to talk to you today is about my concerns with the project for Culvert 818 replacement in Pawatahanui Village. The reason I'm interested in this project is that it is immediately downstream of my property, and so it has that's my interest. I have significant concerns about the proposed design for the culvert because if it is built as proposed, there is a significant chance that my property will become uninsurable. My home is a significant asset to me, and I'm obliged to protect. An evaluation of the design documents provided to me by the council leads me to believe that the culvert will not carry sufficient water, even in moderate flood events. The modelling completed by Land Matters of the design, which is Porirua City Council's contracted consultant, shows a design flow of 4.2 cubic metres per second. The hydrology report by SLR Consulting for 6 Paekakariki Hill Road shows flows ranging from 2.3 cubic metres per second at a 63% AEP to 9.9 cubic metres per second at a 1% AEP. For clarity, a 1% AEP means a 1 in 100-year event, and a 10% AEP means 1 in 10 years. Critically, the 20% AEP, or a 1 in 5-year event, is 4.2 cubic metres per second, the same as the design for this culvert. This means we would be expecting an overtopping event 1 in 5 years. This is an unacceptable level of flooding. But that's not just my opinion. Part 126, subsection IAV of the Wellington Regional Plan states that the placement of a culvert needs to be constructed to enable the passage of a 5% AEP event. The NZTA Bridge Construction Manual, which also deals with culverts, also calls out a 5% AEP event. For culvert AEP, for culvert 818, the AEP of 5% translates to 6.8 cubic metres per second. This makes the design as proposed only 61% of what would be required. However, the regional plan has another rule, R122, that covers the situation for replacements of culvert, which likely applies. It has a different set of conditions under which compliance is required compared to a new build. Section 5.44J says, the activity shall not result in erosion of the riverbanks or, and this is the important part, shall not result in flooding of any neighbouring property. So we have a problem and we need a solution. The culvert needs to carry a reasonable capacity of water. Reasonable, however, is a hard thing to quantify, but achieving a design that can cope with 5% AEP means that insurance issues become largely resolved. Achieving higher level AEPs may be possible, but likely become excessively expensive. I do appreciate there is not an unlimited budget for this project. While I'm not a qualified civil engineer, I do have significant experience in other engineering disciplines and have taken the time to research and understand the basics and take advice from professionals who are qualified experts to come to some conclusions about design. As it sits, there are two major areas that are bottlenecks to the flow of water. The first constraint, which makes the culvert inlet controlled, is design of the inlet or head walls of the culvert. The head walls are simply not big enough. From discussions with Land Matters at a meeting in April, they had worked with the constraint of keeping the head walls within the constraints of the road reserve. Given that constraint, they've likely designed the best possible solution. However, that constraint is artificial. Building larger head walls would significantly improve the flow. These head walls would need to extend into my property to be effective. On January the 13th, I emailed Mayor Baker and Mr. Mendonca after a meeting with them on site. In that email, I followed up on our discussion and stated there was an area that we would be happy to use to improve the situation. I also provided a map with a sketch which showed that showed the area that would be available. It appeared that this information was never passed to the design engineers. Nonetheless, I'm still happy to engage in sensible dialogue about how the required land could be used. It could be gifted to PCC by boundary change or a covenant, for example. The required land has no amenity value to us, and it can't be used for much other than a culvert head wall. Fixing the head wall is not the only required change. The box section culvert, as designed, would become the dominant constraint after the head wall is resolved. It's currently designed with a 0.29% slope. At 0.29%...
Sorry, Andrew, how much? You've had 5 minutes.
Another 30 seconds?
30 seconds. I'll give you 30 seconds.
Sure.
I think there is one question. I think we have got time for it. Given that this is a rather technical thing that we're exposing councillors to, so if you could...
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So fixing the head wall is not the only change. At 0.29%, the flow is restricted to just 4.8%, increasing the slope to the culvert to just 1.5% increases as a dramatic flow capacity to nearly 8 cubic metres per second. In easy to understand terms, this means the downstream end of the culvert would need to drop about 230 metres, very close to the width of this piece of paper. The cost implications of making the box section slightly more sloped are very small. The cost implications of building bigger head walls are mitigated by not needing to build a complex concrete span for the footpath. In summary, there's a feasible solution to this problem that would not significantly increase costs and increase the capacity of the culvert so it does not cause flooding.
So there is a feasible solution, you're saying. I think we will get briefed on this by our officers. I think we understand where you're coming from. I just want to allow time for one question from Councillor Filo.
Kia ora, Andrew. Thank you. That was, it sounds reasonable. Sounds like you've put a lot of time and thought into this. The suggestions for increasing the slope and extending the head walls and even offering up part of your land. So it sounds very practical and potentially cost effective. So, and I can see, you know, that being the insurability of your home is at stake here. So I guess what I'd like to know is if there's anything else that you'd like this council, the CE, to take away from today, especially in terms of how you'd like to move forward.
Well, I think the first immediate thing I'd like to request is a directive to the consultants to rerun a model in their software, which is quite a small task, to look at actually what the flows would be, and to assess that, and also look at the secondary constraints.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll take that on board, Andrew. Thank you very much.
The documents, all the documents.
You've got a question as well.
Yeah, thanks for coming
Councillor
in.
Ford.
It would have been handy to have that information prior to the meeting. So will that be sent on to our staff too?
Yes, I can send you a copy of what I've read out, and also all the documents and information I referred to are held by Porirua City Council. So these were obtained under OAA. So it's your
Excuse me,
information.
we'll just let Mike.
Oh, thanks. I was just going to say that we're in regular touch with Mr. Fraser and
Yeah, I
have a good
think
working
we already
relationship.
have the information, but you can supply it to us and councillors can look as well if they wish.
I can leave you with this copy, and I will.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Forward you I'll forward you a copy via email. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much for coming along. Apologies for the
it. That's right.
initial. All right. Right, so that brings us to our hearings, and I'd like to call Martin Rosevear to the Oh, yes, sorry. He can sit there for a second. I'll just confirm. Don't worry.
I'll
Don't
second
worry.
that.
Yep. I'll just make sure there are no conflict of interest declarations to make. Take it. There are none. No notification of extraordinary business, although you could say we've had some extraordinary business, because it wasn't on my list of things to do here. And then we'll move to the confirmation of minutes of the 15th of May 2025. I'm going to move those minutes. I have a seconder, Councillor Trillin. Are there any corrections or alterations to the minutes? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Now, we're ready. Okay, Martin, so you've got 5 minutes, and the bell, if you want questions, you've got to finish within the 5 minutes. Do we have a bell at 4? We'll have a bell at 4.
Oh, so 5 minutes with questions?
5 minutes with questions.
Okay.
There'll be a bell at 4, and that'll leave us a minute for questions.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Then in that case, I'll hurry through this, I suppose. The first page is, thank you for hearing us. Go a little bit through history. The Porirua Grand Traverse is a creature of council, started by council, has been routinely subsidised. We started off with a $40,000 budget. We now have a $100,000 budget that we managed to. It has been very popular. This year, was our best event, so we're still on a growth mode. Many of our visitors from outside Porirua. The success of this has largely been to our success with the gaming trusts. So we get on an average about 30K per annum. This year, that fell to 6K. That has been a significant issue for us. But we have got kaitahi sponsorship. We are moving forward. Ringatui, we can't claim all the success of Ringatui. 256,000 counts per year on Ringatui, a huge success. But we used it as our route, and we were influential in the investments that have happened up there. So I'll get on to the situation we find ourselves in. From council and ratepayers' position, our ratepayers are grumpy. Events like PGT, some would argue, are nice to have and not core business. And you're under the gun just like everyone else in terms of cost reduction and user pays models. But raising the flag from our perspective, we are a peak event. We bring the community together. We were a creature that was here to make Porirua a place to work, to live and to play in. We were part of that fabric. We would argue that we have been a very good steward of your resources and the ratepayers' resources in achieving that. We are a force for pride. We grow the recreational use of Rangatui and its surrounds. We would also argue that we tick the boxes: economics, social well-being. Okay. So, final position. We will not be standing still. We face a difficult funding environment, including this situation. We are looking at restructuring our event to avoid road crossings and to minimise costs where we can. We could morph into a less professional, a volunteer-led event. I think that would be a step backward. And that may devalue our core mission and the manner of the event. Okay. But in summary, we know that council needs to save costs, but the argument from my event is that we need you, all right? We need the subsidy, we need the support that we have received from council. And our final argument, I think, is that I think we have governed and we have led that trust well. That's my final words.
Oh, that was well done.
Thank you.
Well done to get through that, Martin.
Okay.
We have a question from Mayor Baker.
Just, can you remind us how much you pay in road traffic control?
Yes, $20,000, or roundabouts, $20,000.
Thanks.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from councillors? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, mātua upoko. Thanks for coming in, Martin, and your steadfast devotion to the Grand Traverse. Our strategic goals as a council includes our people, which has a commitment to safe, active and healthy communities. Could you perhaps go into some detail as to how the Grand Traverse plays a part in that?
Okay. A little bit of history there. Originally, I suppose we would call it an elite event. So it was for, athletes who were training a number of times a week at length, at 2 to 3 hours. We then introduced what we'd call a fun event, or a walk from Titahi Bay through to our finish line. And that was for people who are not necessarily fit. And one year, and I suppose it was 1 year, we had people from, who weren't that fit, all right? So it was specifically a route that was intended for people who weren't at an athletic degree of fitness, over a very scenic element of our terrain. So that would be probably the best answer.
I've been on that route. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Martin. No more questions.
I'll allow one more question from Councillor Trillin.
Kia ora, thank you very much, Martin. Just very quickly, could you tell us as a rough proportion how much of the required funding for the event comes from council support at the moment? And so just so we understand what the implications that would be if that was to reduce.
Okay.
What sort of decisions would you have to make?
Yeah. The budget for this year was $100,000, all right, of which your part was $10,000. However, because we had a shortfall in funding, we had to dip into our reserves, which we'd built over many years. We now have virtually no reserves. So we have to restructure. The expectation is we will be able to change the event so we don't have to have road crossings. That's going to come at a little bit of a cost of athletes. I can't answer you directly, but those are the numbers that we are working with. And it comes back to how much we can get out of the gaming trusts. We're budgeting around about 15K. So it's a little bit of a moving feast. That's as best as I can tell you. So yes, 10K within probably a budget of 50 to 60K doesn't sound a lot. But when you're trying to meet income with costs, it can be a big stretch. Okay.
Good. Thank you, and thank you, Martin. That's useful for councillors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We do not appear to have our second submitter, Makairi Paki, on Zoom at the moment, so let's move to Michael Player. Michael, if you'd like to come forward. You've got 10 minutes. A bell will ring at 9 if you would like any questions.
Kia ora,
Thank you very
councillors, Tāku and staff. Thanks for this opportunity to speak on local water done well, which is of course of crucial importance to the missions of both the Te Awarua or Porirua Harbour and Catchments Community Trust and the Guardians of Pātanui Inlet. I'm representing both organisations today and bring apologies from Lindsay Gow, who's the chair of GOPI, who's currently out of town. Over many years of advocacy for restoration of the harbour, we've struggled to get action on a large scale across so many councils and agencies which have an influence on management over various aspects of the contributing catchments and the harbour. It's often a light bulb moment when we, as no doubt you do too, explain to people that currently 3 councils all have a slice of the action relating to Porirua Harbour. After years of trying to make it work, including the creation of Wellington Water, it's obvious the current model is not optimal to meet the challenges facing all councils of compounding problems with crumbling pipes, cross connections and limited wastewater handling capacity to meet the needs of growth. We're not here to offer endorsement on projections for saving users money by moving to a single water entity. We're a little sceptical, but we hope your modelling of user charges being around a third less than a modified status quo option comes to fruition. Our support for the multi-council owned option is based on other grounds. The most compelling reason we see is that a new comprehensive water entity covering the 5 councils is that the 3 waters are in fact a holistic system involving a maze of interacting networks. Whether it's drinking water sourced from Kaitoki, wastewater collected from Wellington's northern suburbs, or stormwater from those suburbs, same suburbs moving down the Porirua stream, there's a logic that one organisation with economies of scale, access to large lines of finance, and the ability to recruit and sustain excellence in expertise and delivery is logically the way to go. We're concerned that our neighbouring city of Wellington seems less resolute than this council in its advocacy of a single Greater Wellington water entity, as evidenced by its consulting on 3 rather than 2 options, and also seeking a legal opinion relating to the possibility of retaining stormwater in-house. We observed that as stormwater runoff involves natural as well as constructed watercourses, the ownership status is more ambiguous. And we note that stormwater is probably the most contentious, but in our view, one of the most important to grapple with. And we were a little disappointed that your own explanatory information was a little light on stormwater. However, the preferred model, as consulted by all the councils, covers all 3 waters. And the Wellington City legal advice before that council today is that any departure from the option proposed would require a fresh consultation, placing in jeopardy central government deadlines. On the presumption, therefore, that the new multi-council water entity will proceed, the single most important point we want to embed in your consciousness today relates to the Harbour Accord. The Accord has taken a decade of hard work, especially by Ngāti Toa Rangatira as kaitiaki, to get it negotiated and signed. The Harbour Accord must not be strangled so soon after its birth. It will be essential in the setup of a new combined water entity to see restoration of the health of our harbour front and centre in the Statement of Expectations. When the Harbour Accord was signed on Waitangi Day, and again at the Harbour Accord Summit on March 5, everyone who spoke was adamant that the time for more talk on what to do about the harbour has long since passed. The years ahead must be about visible action. One thing your Porirua Council can be very proud of is its consistent placement of the harbour as a top strategic outcome. The riparian planting program has been a shining example of putting words into action. While next year you may be passing most of your water management responsibilities to a new local water done well entity, please make your mark by successfully enshrining the health of Te Awarua or Porirua Harbour firmly at the centre of your Statement of Expectations and embedding it at every opportunity in the new organisation's thinking and priorities, holding its feet to the fire when it comes to investing and carrying out capital and operational work activities. We trust that you won't let us down in this regard, and that while many water responsibilities will be off your balance sheet, you will still retain levers for environmental improvements, be it local roading, setting requirements for water-sensitive urban and rural development, parks and reserves plantings, and the maintenance of floodways over council land. Ngā mihi nui and best wishes in your deliberations. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Thank you for your words. We have Councillor Philo and then Councillor Hayward with questions.
Hey, thanks, Michael, and thanks for your suggestion as well about having the harbour included in the Statement of Expectations. While you're here, I thought it'd be good to sort of pick your brain around this. You've mentioned a few practical steps for how to, improve the water quality and slow down the segmentation. But just wondering if there was one practical step right now that you would think would make the biggest impact. What would that be?
I think the biggest thing would be to get another round of funding for planting and finish the planting job, particularly on erosion-prone slopes higher up in the catchments, not just the riparian strips.
Thanks. Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, Michael. It's quite impressive to hear your submission in regards to this matter, and the message has been received with regards to the Water Accord.
Thank you.
Are there, notwithstanding what I've heard, that what you've asked is the primary focus, are there other issues that the organisations that you are here to represent would like to have considered by Council as part of a Statement of Expectations on a pending multi-council owned entity that we're going out to consult with? Is there anything else that we should be also focusing in those Statement of Expectations?
Well, I think it might be somewhat controversial in current political circumstances, but enshrining Te Mana o Te Wai in the actual Statement of Expectations would be enduring and speak beyond political cycles. But I think that really the rest of it is self-determining in the sense that more restoration of the pipes, particularly the wastewater, stopping the wastewater incursion into stormwater at peak overflow times, and that means that they're going to have to get the pump, the actual sewage treatment statement up to snuff, rather than relying on building like another 4 tanks to hold water and just dribble it in, because that's dealing with the symptoms. It's not dealing with the actual problem.
Thank you. Are there any,
I'll take one sub.
Yeah.
Following on from that line, do you have any commentary with regards to what Taumata Arawai is talking about with regards to expectations around resource consents for all discharges within networks, but also they're looking at wanting to provide certainty through longer resource consent potentially? Do you have any comments on that?
I do have comments. We're most concerned about their approach because they want to set maximum rates for pollution. So in actual fact, what they're saying is that if you get a resource consent, you can pollute up to a certain standard, rather than actually setting very strong limits. And that's just building in pollution in our view. So we're very concerned about the national standards approach in its current form.
Thank you. Are there any no other questions from councillors? If there being no other questions, thanks very much.
Cheers.
Well, thanks for your insights, Michael. Right, now have we got Kay and Kirk here from Titahi Bay Surf Lifesaving Club? Now you understand, you will have heard the 10 minutes, bell at 9 if you want questions. Ready when you are.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Kei Ryan tōku ingoa. I'm the chair of Titahi Bay Surf Lifesaving Club, and with me today is not Kirk, sorry, is Tane McMahon, our lifesaving coordinator. Kirk, unfortunately, got called away to work. Titahi Bay Surf Lifesaving Club has been part of our community for 87 years, and we were established to benefit the community by saving lives and ensuring the safety of the community at the beach and in the water. Currently, we have 391 members who we work with to develop their skills, particularly in our junior lifeguard and our life-saving programs. Our club's need is urgent. We have 7 years. A new location is necessary in order for us to begin fundraising, seeking grants, and also funding for new club rooms. We know from our research with other clubs who've recently rebuilt or moved locations that the effort can take more than 5 years. We will have support from Surf Lifesaving New Zealand, who have seen the need to support clubs in rebuilding and have hired an infrastructure manager who we are currently engaging with. I would like to acknowledge the council officers who from back in 2023 we have engaged with when we began in the long-term planning process and the resource management process. And more recently, as we've embarked on our submission, their guidance has been invaluable and appreciated. Whilst we've begun to engage with local community groups who have shown support, we know going forward that this is key to our success, importantly our relationship with mana whenua. This needs to be a space that is for the community that we share. We have a plan to fully engage further, but we have focused our efforts initially with the council. I guess in closing, what's the impact of not having a surf club in Titahi Bay? I'll just provide you with one example. The rescue of 3 young girls in Titahi Bay in December 2020. They would have died without our lifeguards. The what if is pretty stark. Any questions? Open to that?
Highline. But yes, we have a question from Councillor Filo.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks for everything that you've just laid out, and I really appreciate the level of detail and the practical approach that you've taken in the submission. What you're asking feels completely reasonable. There's no rates impact. You're asking for officer support to help navigate the next steps. And given everything that you do for the community, I'm really open to finding ways that we can support this. I've just got 2 questions for you. I know you're looking at the north end of the beach, but can you be a bit more specific about where exactly you're thinking, so that we just get a clear sense of what's being proposed?
Well, the Nixon area is obviously an area that we would be interested in. But to be honest with you, we are open to anything. We believe that having a surf lifesaving club within Tatahi Bay is essential. So we're willing to work with council on any options that might be available to us. But the North End is our preferred.
So the second question is around that community shared space that you mentioned. Sorry. Just checking if that is something that you've included to help broaden. So is that something that you genuinely want as part of this long-term vision, or is it more something that you've included to help show broader community value, to encourage council support? I'm just keen to understand what's more important to you so that we can focus on the support in the right way.
Look, we could have a standalone surf club, absolutely. We've seen across, we've done quite a bit of research, we've seen across New Zealand that there are surf clubs that have shared spaces, they have cafes that are open to the community, they're on top of public toilet blocks, outdoor showers, things like that. I think those draw the community in, so there's a bit more to it. I think you get a better feel rather than a standalone. But look, again, we're open to what we can work on together.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we'll have Councillor Hayward, Taku Parai, and then Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Kay. Tay, it's good to see you, bro. I think you've answered most of my questions, and obviously the material that you've brought on notice as well is quite a strong argument. I was hoping that we could get a bit more detail about from your work researching other examples across the motu, as well as your conversations with Porirua City Council staff, that the proposal for sites within at the northern end of the beach, there is obviously some council-owned land up at that location. It is a lease agreement that would be encountered, and what role do you expect the council to play in terms of making sure that that site is ready for development for a site like what you would like to have?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a really good question. We probably haven't got that far, to be honest with you. Yeah. But having talked to Paikokariki and Lyle Bay, they have had good council support in terms of preparing sites. But yeah, probably not something we've really gone that far into at this point.
Okay. Like I said, you've answered all of our questions, so thank you.
Thank you. Taku.
Good. Just to say that, I welcome this discussion, and I think it's important that we get in behind our local surf club. And Ngāti Toa has a good relationship with you guys, and we just opened the Paikokariki one a couple of weeks ago, and it's magnificent.
Beautiful.
They've brought it back from the beach line and more sort of community focused and centred, whereby, like you said, the community can use the facility. So yeah, I wish you luck. Give us a call. Gilda.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was a pretty comprehensive submission you put in there, and great information, and what a great history the club has got. The Nixon block is the one you're talking about, isn't it, where you're looking for? It does seem the most logical, and it was quite concerning to see in the submission the danger that you've got with your current club rooms, with the foundations and things coming away. It does look pretty dodgy there for you, doesn't it? So are you progressing well with council officers at the moment, or are you where are you at with that?
So the council officers have helped us. They've been immensely helpful in preparing the submission. That is where we're at the moment, but we are looking to engage further with them to help us navigate finding a space.
So you've got nothing concrete to actually hang on to?
No, we don't at this point.
But
that's our ask, I
guess.
Well, look, I wish you all the best for it, and you do a fantastic job for us. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Mayor Baker has a question.
Thank you. I'm assuming of the block we purchased, obviously, for community facilities at some point, and the community obviously would have to be consulted, I'm assuming, through a long-term plan process, and I'm sure everybody would go that way. We obviously know you need moving. Would you put, like you suggested, a cafe or other rooms so that those can be leased by the community, like other community spaces? Because at the moment you're really small and that block is rather large.
Yeah,
Would you put a bigger building on it?
I think that would be the most benefit to the community. I mean, I have a vision of a surf club that would have a cafe underneath it. We would have community rooms. We're contacted so often to use our club rooms, and where we can, we share them with the community, but we do have a congestion problem. I see a vision of having a large community room that could be used, like other surf clubs across the Motu.
Great, thank you.
No other questions, councillors? Well, thank you, Kay and Tay. Thank you for coming in.
Well done, Tay.
Yes. Andy Mallard. So, Andy, you have 5 minutes. Bell will ring at 4. You want questions?
Sure. Good morning, all. It's quite confronting sitting here, isn't it? Excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous.
I'm sure you can handle it.
Okay, thanks for letting me come along and read to my submission that I made on the annual plan. And I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, Pauline. So this is for us, it's a joint submission. We love living in Porirua. We have made Porirua our home for the last 16 years. We'd prefer to stay and enjoy the wonderful community with its diversity, its harbour and its people, but not at any cost. The annual plan has as its core the long-term plan. The draft annual plan simply provides a summary of where things stand in relation to the LTP. For example, a commentary on cost increases and a statement that Council have been working diligently to find cost cuts, deferrals, etc. to bring this year's projected rates increase down from 10% to 6.75%, plus the possibility of further reductions subject to community feedback. Rates are scheduled to increase 54% over the next 5 years. That's on top of the 17.5% increase this year. When we talk to other families in Porirua and explain the projected rates increases, they are as horrified as we are. It's difficult to get around the fact that underinvestment in Three Waters over many years has put us in this situation outlined in the long-term plan. In addition, significant cost increases stemming from the likes of COVID-19, inflation and interest rate increases have exacerbated matters, as are now indicated in the the annual plan that's put forward. With that as a very summarised version of the background, it would seem that Council's intent is to pass costs onto the community in an attempt to provide a fix in the short term, rather than tailor budgets over a much longer period. The LTP indicates a return to rate increases of less than 5% in year 7. Council made it clear in the LTP that it does not have a clear mandate to amend the level of services provided. Why then did Council not choose to seek that mandate for reduced levels of services rather than tinkering around the edges with the 4 options for rates reduction? We suggest Council seek this mandate as soon as possible. We must find a pathway that allows Council to make cuts to services without the need to seek approval at every step. Let this Council step up, and the new Council that is to be elected later this year present to the community its plan for significant service reductions to bring our rates back to affordability. We understand this won't be an easy task. most people will be displeased that they will lose services, funding, grants, and access to all the things this great city has to offer. But there comes a time when we must all suffer for the benefit of all in the future. As for the presented options for rates reductions in the consultation document, we comment as follows. Grants. Yes, we support Council's preferred option 1. We were living in a world where we could, as a community, provide for valuable services that the investment. Gosh.
So you've got 1 more minute.
Yeah, okay.
But
I'm going to.
Our next speaker is 20 past, so we've got till 20 past.
Okay.
Right? Unless you want questions.
No, I don't really need questions. Provide the valuable service that our event investment service and the Chamber of Commerce provide, but we simply can't afford the overall rates increases. So we are left with having to accept that there will be a need to cut services. Parking fees. Yes, we support the Council's preferred option. We prefer there were no parking charges for parking, but once again, we are left with having to accept an increase in parking charges in a hope that fees raised will help to decrease my rates bill, everybody's rates bill. Building consent charges. Yes, we have to support the Council's preferred option. Similar sort of argument. Cannons Creek Pool. Once again, we are having to accept increases for a great community facility, but we can't afford to pay the rates. I'm going to stop there because I've run out of time, and you've all read my submissions anyway.
Yes, you can take it, Andy, that every councillor around the table would have read your submission. We have a question from Councillor Philo and then one from Councillor Trillon.
Thanks, Andy. You've made it really clear that affordability is a core concern, and I want to acknowledge that. I heard you say that council should adopt more affordable rates as the basis for future planning and work from that basis to determine the level of service that can be offered. So my question is, what does that mean to you in practical terms? So I'm interested in your view. Is it about setting a clear affordable threshold or something more about changing how council sets priorities overall?
We've all only got so much money. There comes a point in time where you break the bank. Now, I know that 25% of my pension currently goes on rates. And in about 3 years' time, that's going to be 33% of my pension. Simply cannot afford that level of rates. Something's got to give. The pensions aren't going to go up.
Thanks. My second question is...
just on the basis of timing, there are 2 other councillors that want a question as well. And I'll come back to you at the end if there's time, okay? Councillor Trillon, a quick question, and then Councillor Wehapi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your submission. You talked about how we're consulting here on tinkering around the edges as opposed to reducing services, and you'd like us to seek that mandate. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more to, are there particular services or areas of spending that the council is currently investing in that you would like us to actively look at? Is there anything in particular you can point to where you feel we could be saving money?
Well, that's a very difficult question, and it's a question I put to both Ross and the Mayor, that we elect you people to guide us. Please do so. Don't ask me which service, because I don't use the swimming pools. That's not the right thing to do, though. I don't use the library, but that's not the right thing to do either. You need to look at the rates, the affordable rates, and say, well, that's the budget we've got. Now, what can we do to provide a good city for those rates?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wehapi.
Thank you, Andy and Pauline, for your submission. And also, I agree, we probably as a council need to make some tougher decisions around the table, and completely agree with you. My question is kind of along the same lines as Councillor Trillin, but I just want you to see if you can maybe let us know one example of what you see wasteful spending is.
The whole of Three Waters. I see, and it's been documented that the level of spend by Wellington Water is far more than other similar organisations around the country. And when you see the people coming up to fix a water pipe in the street, and they have 3 vehicles, 4 blokes, most of them sitting on their cell phones, and one guy sort of looking and scratching his head, that's really wasteful.
Okay. Mayor Baker, you want to make a...
Thank you. If water goes over, because I'm not saying it's going, because we're still going through that process, council would have to do a new long-term plan next year to look at what we're spending. And I agree with what you're saying, and budgets need to be cut. But that's unfortunately next year, not this year. But I do want to acknowledge what you've said, and I don't disagree with anything.
Thank you. We do have a little bit of time, given other flexibilities. Councillor, you generally ask long questions with a long preamble. Do you want to have you got a quick question?
It's to follow up the previous question. You said before that you wait for us to show the leadership. Would that mean that you will abide by the decision of election campaigns that when people are elected and have come in with a view and around the world, that they are going to make those decisions even if it doesn't necessarily fit with your personal views?
That's democracy.
All right, Councillor Filo, go for it. Bit quick.
So I just want to come back to the water entity and accountability. So you said in your submission that you support the new multi-council water model, but raise concerns about losing the ability to hold the new entity to account, and especially with the oversight shifting to the Commerce Commission. So my question is, I'm interested in what would give you the confidence that this new model will stay responsive to communities, even if it's not governed directly by council?
Maybe I can answer that question by outlining my concern, and that is that in a couple of years' time, you're going to have a separate water entity that's going to be charging people directly for their Three Water use. And you're going to have council that's done away with Three Waters and has a much lower rates demand by doing that. However, when you combine the two, my guess is that those combined costs are going to be equal to, more than likely, more than we pay now. So I would like, in the setup of that organisation, for councils, the 5 councils, to be all over it as much as they can to make sure that the ratepayers are not going to be put into a position where the combined rates and water bills are less than affordable. So I don't know how you do that, but I think councils have to stand up and get into the Commerce Commission now and say, let's work together, because as I understand it, the Commerce Commission will be the adjudicator on whether those water bills are affordable. Councils should be in there now with the Commerce Commission, making sure that the model they use for affordability is sound and doesn't put us in a position where we're paying more for the combined rates and water in the future.
Right. Thank you, Andy. I think message is heard, and I think you can be assured that council and council officers and in the wider area are on top of these things that you're talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Right. Can I call Diane Strucknell to the table from Paua Tahanui Residents Association? Diane et al. Okay, so you have 10 minutes. Bell will ring at 9 if you want questions. So shoot, Diane.
Morena, thank you very much for having us here this morning to talk to our annual plan submission. I'm joined by Mary Jones from our committee and Joe in the back row also supporting us. I'm going to begin with what feels like the easier question to address, and that's the proposal for a new multi-council owned water organisation. Whilst noting that the majority of our members manage their own 3 waters, we agree with the rationale for supporting a new water organisation. This will hopefully be more efficient and provide better access to resources, including funding, for you as an individual council. We do note that there is always a risk that the entity could be sold off in the future or turned into a profit-making enterprise. So we would ask you to ensure that there are safeguards or caveats put in place to make this not happen. Okay, that was for us the easy part of the annual plan consultation. We have to admit that submitting on the annual plan is a deeply frustrating experience, and we can understand why many people choose not to bother. We can look in more detail at the accompanying documents, and we did try, but it is hard to get the sense around balancing council's books without a lot more of the information. And so we do rely on you as the councillors to do this due diligence. We were presented with 4 very specific areas in which you offered us a yes or no choice. If we chose to accept all of your preferred options, it would make an average reduction to rates of less than 1%. And actually, it's not a reduction to our rates, it's just less of an increase. Anyway, this is such small rates relief that whether you settle on the preferred options or not actually feels as though it's not going to make any difference. An initial look at the council consultation document shows that the savings are $0.82 million. Put that way, it looks quite significant. But if you take away the million part of it and say, hang on, that's $820,000, and then divide that by the population of the city, that's approximately $13 per person per year. And actually, that's not so much. Maybe we could commend council and use expressions like, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves to support this, but actually the way it's presented looks very much just like council spin. We believe that council should be looking to ensure across all departments that there is greater efficiency and consistency within its current funding. A little bit echoing, I think, Andy. As you may appreciate, as a community, we tend, by and large, to favour a user pays approach, and this applies to building consent charges. Any increase in building consent charges should clearly relate to the service being provided, and certainly not be, as it was put in the document, an option to offset rates increases. And why building consents? Why not some other service-based charge? It feels as though somewhere within council there's a dartboard that doesn't have numbers but has departments on it. And somebody just takes a dart and blindly throws it and goes, okay, that's what we'll do. When considering service-based charges, as say, any increase in the charge should relate clearly to the cost of providing that service, as well as translating into benefits for those that use the service. Whilst reductions in rates are always welcome, and noting again that it's actually not a reduction in the rates, but a reduction in the rates increase, to present this as good news feels disingenuous. There is little indication within the accompanying reports of what the impacts will be on future rates. Will we face an even bigger increase next year to compensate for this year's lesser increase? What will happen if the current property valuations that are being undertaken show a drop in property values compared to the highs of 3 years ago? Will this mean an even more substantial increase next year? It just feels like a never-ending mountain that we're struggling up. Which brings me to a last point. And I'm going to echo Andy here, I think, too. As we all know, rates are purely a tax based on the value of our land, and it has no relationship to the services that we receive from council. When we think of income tax, we know that it's tax based on our income, and that the more you earn, the more you will pay. And we don't try and actually correlate that to the services that we receive. I haven't visited the hospital this past year. I don't have children using the education system, but I still accept that need to pay tax. And rates are the same. The higher our property value, the more we pay. And yet somehow with rates we have a different perception, and the unfairness of it feels palpable, because the value of our property is not necessarily related to our ability to pay the rates, or to make any adjustment to the way in which we have to pay or the amount we pay. To effect any change that would make paying rates more palatable requires a complete overhaul of the rates system and the laws that define it. And to quote Dickens, the law is an ass and sometimes needs to be questioned. Reading through the other submissions, and maybe I'm going to reference Andy's one here, we saw that we're not the only ones who feel this way, and that terms such as tinkering around the edges has been used. As individuals, and even as an individual organisation, it is very hard to see how we can initiate change. However, you as an entity, as a council of our elected representatives, could begin to speak up on our behalf, to talk with other councils and councillors and advocate through local government organisations or to central government. If councils don't start speaking up on behalf of their residents, then nothing will change. And we as PRA will be sitting here facing you and saying the same things next year and the year after ad infinitum. But we hope not. So we're going to challenge you as a council to step up and out of the same old, and move towards finding a better way. We're sure you would find a lot of community support should you choose to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. We've got two questions here. Councillor Trillin and then Mayor Baker.
Kia ora, thank you.
And then Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much, Diane. I had a few questions. I'm just going to ask one of them because I know a couple of other people want to ask questions as well. You mentioned at the start that engaging and submitting on the annual plan is a very frustrating process. I wonder if you could give us any guidance around what steps we could take in future consultations, whether that be annual plan or long-term plan or otherwise. What could we do to make it an easier experience for you to engage in, both for yourself as an organisation, but also for the individuals that you represent as well?
I don't know whether Mary has some. I think that, and for me, in part, it is that tinkering around the edges. We feel like we're making decisions, and I think a little bit like Andy says, we rely on you as the elected officials to be the ones. You're the ones that actually have to make those decisions. It feels like whatever we say is not going to make a difference. Making the information, there is such a wealth of information that sits behind it. I'm not sure how. A little bit again. Don't know. It's a challenge. I honestly do shake my head in terms of how, and I don't envy you making those decisions, but it feels like the ones we're making are not going to make a difference somehow. It's like a juggernaut, and how do you stop it?
Just one other quick clarification.
Well, we've got three others waiting, and we are starting push for time, if that's okay. Councillor Trillin?
Yeah,
Mayor Baker?
that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Value for property doesn't mean we can't pay anymore. I don't disagree with you. Would you have us try and change the rating system? I can assure you we are working with Local Government New Zealand and other councils on how to do things better. I don't think we communicate it very well, but I'd be interested to see what sort of property rating how would you like that changed?
Ooh, that's another big one.
I'm sorry.
Maybe that's a Maybe you can think about that and
Yeah,
answer
come
that
back. You don't have to
outside
answer
here.
it now, but I would
Yeah.
be interested because I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think that both questions that you've asked, I think would be really good to take back to our community and actually ask people.
Yeah, that would be valuable if you did that. Thank you. Right, Councillor Duncan and then Councillor Weehapi quickly, and then we've got to move on.
Thanks, Diane and Mary. Look, I just wanted to know, are you aware that I mean, there are very few people who disagree with you that the local government system is broken, but you don't seem to be aware of the thrust that local government New Zealand and all the councils around are pushing for change in that area. Were you aware that that is happening?
I would say not specifically. Okay. Maybe that's not well communicated.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
that's noted, and I think Mayor Baker's already said that we are pushing in that area. Councillor Weehapi.
Thank you for both coming in and representing our Pāotahanui community. So just in your view, would you say it's more so the process of consultation that is the disingenuous thing about coming in? Because I know that we've seen you every year, more than once sometimes, and I can see you're fed up. So is it the process, what Councillor Duncan was saying in regards to us trying to push with local government New Zealand, that the actual need to have to do this all the time is just completely annoying for you, as opposed to the options that we presented?
I think we have a strong sense that democracy has to play a strong part, and the part of that is actually facing, I certainly do not enjoy doing this. It's nerve-wracking every time, but we do believe that you need to see our faces, we need to see you, and see how the whole process works. It would just be good to know, I think, that we can take the information back and have more information to work with than just very simple, but so, yeah.
Thank you. And your feedback is valued, I can assure you. I mean, and as you said, see, it might be difficult for you, but you do it well, Diane. The feedback face-to-face is really important, as we're noting this morning from not just you, but other submitters so far. So thank you both, Diane and Mary.
You're welcome.
Very good. Thanks. John Chester. John is from Parimata Residents Association. You know you've got 10 with a bell at 9, John. I think you'll have to turn your microphone on again there. So push the button. Yeah, that's it. Okay. You're on.
Kia ora. So I'm representing the Parramatta Residents Association this time. My overall message, like the previous two, is we need to make Porirua rates affordable. So perception is the Porirua City Council has lived beyond its means for some time now, and the amount of rates we pay is probably now the highest in New Zealand on an RV or an income basis. The future looks bleak, as Andy said. The need to pay down debt to avoid further falls in credit rating and the need to catch up on infrastructure renewals means that further high increases are fairly likely. We feel like Porirua City Council is a bus heading for a cliff. Throwing out some of the water baggage and touching the brakes is not going to help much. The bus needs to be turned around. It's easy to provide reasons for high rates, as you do, such as high head count per house or no ports. That does not mean that we should spend like our neighbours without matching income. We should not be spending beyond our means. And I think we've done that for the last 10 or so years, and it's time to turn it around. Recently, we welcomed a new neighbour who moved from Auckland. He purchased his house in Parramatta for half of what he sold his Auckland house for. Lucky him. However, his rates are twice what he paid in Auckland. Unlucky him. We're getting to the stage where people will start to avoid buying or living in Porirua based on the rates burden. When people buy their houses these days, they don't generally look at the rates. and they get a bit of a shock afterwards, I think we're at risk of people looking at the rates and going, actually, we might start looking elsewhere. So we need to make Porirua rates affordable. There's a temptation to say that amalgamation will fix this. Amalgamation's unlikely to happen. There's the opportunity to pass some skeletons onto the new water entity. This is just moving the deck's chairs as far as the ratepayers are concerned. The focus of Porirua Council has to be the development of a sustainable plan so that we can live within our means. The current LTP does not achieve that and will not achieve that. If the current council management is unwilling or incapable of doing this, we should consider some changes. I don't want to talk about the 4 cost reduction proposals in detail, except to say that they're trivial and directionally welcome. A cynic might say that they're a diversion from the core issues. We've put together some opportunities and we'll hope you'll consider them seriously, and a sort of a different thrust than the sort of opportunities that the council have come up in the past. The first is local government New Zealand, and I guess you talked about it a little bit before. Our view is unless there's a laser focus on productivity improvement and efficiency opportunity amongst the councils and amongst local government New Zealand, then the costs associated with belonging to local government New Zealand cannot be justified for Porirua ratepayers. I don't know what the thrust of LGNZ is. If it is to lobby government for more money, the government will be mad to give councils more money based on the performance and lack of accountability so far. Reduce the number of elected councillors. On an area basis, Porirua has nearly the highest number of councillors. Moreover, if and when water is devolved, the reduced scope of council has to mean the number of councillors cannot be justified. On top of that, it sends a good signal. If we're looking at reducing costs within the council, taking the lead at the governance level sounds like a really good start. Staffing levels, there's been ongoing creep in council staffing and outsourcing. We would be hoping for productivity gains, not the opposite. I've put in a living rates target. I think we've seen a living wage discussions in the past. How about a living rates target? So this is something that we should not be exceeding. And I put in a 6% level, which I think is really, really generous, given that from the household expenditure across the nation, it's around about 2.5% to 3% on all councils. The 6% is extremely generous, and Porirua is pretty much there. So at the end of the day, there's only so much ratepayers can afford. The rates burden on Porirua ratepayers is currently high, coupled with the fact that average wages are lower in Porirua and property values are lower, means that many Porirua residents just cannot afford to live here. We need to make Porirua rates affordable.
Thank you, John. Questions? I'm going to start with a question first, and then Mayor Baker, and then Councillor Weehapi, and then Councillor Filo. And Councillor Trillin. Well, we'll get to you. Don't worry. All right. My question is, John, what does affordability look like to you? What does that mean?
It's a proportion of the outgoings from a household. When you get to the stage where you're, for a young person, that their income is a substantial amount of that is going on paying rates or indirectly in rental, which has to reflect the rates, then it's not a good place to live. And the 6% level is, as I said, is generous. I think that it reflects a situation where we're in a relatively poor community, so the wages are not high. We can't be expecting to be paying one of the highest rates in the nation when we're when that's the reality of it. So benchmarking it to an average income would seem like a sensible way of doing it. If everything works well and the average income in New Zealand, in Porirua, increases that might give a bit more scope. But, keeping it at a 6% level, I think is really generous in terms of the rates. If you're getting over that, you think you're getting into red territory.
Thank you. Mayor Baker.
Yeah, well, that was my question, because living rate target sounds awesome, but 6% seems really high.
That's before tax, so that's close to 10% after tax.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what would you ideally set it at? Because 6% seemed high. So if we have, once we've water obviously in another pocket, yes, it's still a different bill and still it's the same. But what would you realistically, let's say, want your living rate set at? Because I like the idea of it, but I think 6% is too high. And that's pulling no punches.
Well, I think in the table that I had, and I'll just try and refer to that, if you look at it where some of the other...
Yeah, but I've read it all. I just wanted a figure, like, are you wanting realistically 2%, 3%, 4%? Because to me, 6% is too high.
Yeah, well, if you look at the average expenditure, household expenditure on all council-related water, etc., across the nation, it's somewhere between 2.5% and 3% at the moment. So keeping below 4% would be a good target.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Weehapi, and then Councillor Duncan and Councillor Trillin. Oh, Councillor Trillin first. Yes, Councillor Filo, you.
Thank you, John, for coming in and representing the Paremata Residents Association. I just had a question around your point 2 in regards to the reduction of councillors in the city, and I note in your submission that include the Māori ward. I just want to understand, is that more of a electing councillors at large, or are you still, in your mind, wanting to keep wards?
Well, I think they go together, don't they? So you need to change the wards and structure arrangement to reduce the number of councillors, I assume. Really, it's two reasons. One is that I don't think the number of councillors that are here around the table can be justified, and certainly can't be once the devolvement of the water responsibility happens. The second thing, and probably as important, is that it sends a signal. Some hard decisions have to be made, and the wrongs of the last 10 years have to be righted, and that's going to be, it's going to be hard work. It sends a good signal to say, look, we're moving to an entity that is different from what we've been in the past, because we want to make Porirua an affordable place to live, and we're going to bite the bullet and take the lead.
Thank you. Councillor, we've got a few more minutes because we have a speaker who hasn't turned up, who won't turn up. Sorry? Excuse me? Oh, yeah, no. Councillor Trillin.
Thank you very much. Kia ora, John. Thank you very much for coming in. I think you've touched on the core problem we're grappling with here when you've talked about the scorecard and this combination of high rates, borrowing a lot, and failing to invest enough in infrastructure as well. And that's what we're really grappling with. Speaking frankly, I think it's very unlikely we're going to be able to solve all three of those problems with the hand that we've currently been dealt. And I wonder if you could speak to, if you look at those three problems of rates being too high, debt being too high, and underinvesting in core infrastructure, if we were to laser focus on one of those and say we can't fix everything, but this is what we want to prioritise, what do you and the Residents Association see as the most important priority?
Well, you'll understand that they're all related, so you can't necessarily just focus on one, you have to focus on the entirety of it. So I'm a little bit concerned that you're throwing in the towel at this point in time. I think it's the situation that I want to emphasise is that the affordability of rates is your focus, has to be your prime focus. You then need to create a plan that fits within that focus of affordability, and the other things will fall out of it. So it's asking, do you pay off the debt, or do you do the infrastructure, or, do the other from a priority point of view? I say again, they're all interrelated. You need to start on terms of the top line target, and work within that to achieve the goals of the council. So again, I'm concerned that you're indicating that you're throwing in the towel, that it can't be done. That's a problem.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. So, Councillor Philo, you're okay? Councillor Duncan, you're okay? All right. No other? Well, a very short one because we have Gear Thompson online just waiting. All right.
I appreciate that you've come in today. I figured if we were in private outside, I'd probably say that we have a fundamental disagreement about how to fund local government and the role of representation in that. We'll put that to the side.
I'm quite happy
I just want to ask a technical question
not
here.
in this forum.
I want to ask a technical question here. Are you aware of the difference between a consumer price index and the local government price index?
I'm not familiar with the local government price indexes.
That's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Cool. Right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I can guess what it is.
Yeah. Higher, probably, but thank you, John, for coming in and making those points on behalf of Parramatta Residents Association. I can assure you that we are listening.
Oh, I hope so.
Thank you. Right. We have Gear Thompson from Mega Properties waiting online. Are you there, Gear? Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, you can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. There seems to be a bit of feedback too, but
It does, doesn't there? I'm not sure what that is.
it's sort of like a delayed.
We can hear you, so that's fine.
Okay.
You've got
It's
10 minutes and a bell will ring at 9 if you want any questions, Gear. Okay?
Okay. Well, anyway, I'll box ahead. Yeah. Rightio. Look.
So, Gear, sorry, have you got your live stream playing?
I don't know what's happening.
Why don't you just...
There's a live stream going as well.
Yeah. Sorry, have you got your live stream? It's not live screen, it's something else that's on, I think.
Okay, look, I'll get my
sounds like
technical
radio or
assistant to
something.
try and sort it out.
Why don't you just...
We'll log out and log in again, perhaps.
Councillors, let's adjourn for a minute while you get that. So again, you've got 10 minutes. Sorry? The meeting, we're resuming our meeting now. You have 10 minutes. A bell will ring at 9, Gear. You can take it that we've read your submission. So if you want a time for questions, make your key points. That would be great.
Yep, no, I'll do that. No, look, like some of those previous speakers have been saying, I think it's time to cut the unnecessaries out and keep to the basics, because rates becoming sort of an unaffordable thing. And I'd say Wanganui is a good example where they have just had a 2.2% wage rise, rate increase by doing things like not buying new vehicles, trimming some staff costs, and generally not doing anything that's unnecessary, but still able to do things which help the city. And I just, like Porirua, though, they don't really have a decent airport or port to subsidise the rest of their rates. So it's excuse me. So therefore, it's a bit comparable in that direction. But my principal concern is the way when a couple of 3 years ago, Porirua Council changed the rating differential on the shopping plaza area, which includes our mega centre. And it is totally unjust, because there's a reason for different in differentials, and that is for things that mean that they're zoned differently so that they can do different things or that they have different requirements. In the mega centre, we can only build shops to a certain size to protect the CBD, which makes a lot of sense. But by having that sort of restriction, it doesn't mean to say that we should be paying the same rates as downtown, where they have all their car parking paid for, their lighting paid for, the rubbish removal, the security, you name it, maintaining lawns and gardens and all the rest of it, is a totally different ball game. And to get that 20% increase in rates for our type of operation was just not fair at all, and needs to be reviewed and sorted, because and we pay about 3 times the residential rate as well. The thing about it is that why is it then that motels are paying 0.55, which is not greatly different to the residential at 0.38, and yet we pay 1.208, the same as other businesses. If you check with other parts of New Zealand, they have zoning and they have differentials which reflect the requirements and the different nature of these areas for a jolly good reason. And I've put down there a lot of the costs that we have for maintaining the mega centre and trying to maintain it, which we have to pay for that a lot of others don't. The only factor there is the rates aren't apportioned, because they are the rates for the whole lot. But a lot of these other things there are the costs that we have to do over and above. And it doesn't include any of the time I've spent there cleaning up rubbish, which seems to be a problem around Porirua. It blows in the wind and people just drop it where they stand, and it just becomes an ongoing headache. But and totally in comparison to the likes of the Richmond Mall and Nelson here, where there aren't even rubbish bins around the place, but there's no rubbish around either. But that is one of our big time-consuming efforts that we have to put up with there. Whereas downtown, the rubbish bins emptied by the council, all looked after by the council, streets swept, cleaned, all the rest of it. So I'm quite happy to answer any questions on the whole situation, but it's really time that it was sorted out, because it's becoming a right problem, really, the cost of it. And the fact that it's totally unreasonable that businesses downtown, little shops downtown, pay the same rate and get all their other services done for them. We pay rates on the land that we're providing for car parking as well, which adds to our costing.
Thank you, Gia. Questions from councillors? We'll start with Councillor Philo.
Kia ora, Gia. Thank you for your submission. You've raised some important concerns around commercial property owners and how they're affected by by rates, and I think in your submission too, you talked a little bit about development costs. My question, and it's not for you to do our job for you. It's not for you to do our job. It's more to see if you have given this any thought or have any ideas really to add to it. What kind of rating approach would feel more balanced and fair from your perspective, especially? Sorry, go ahead.
It was previously, it had a differential considerably less than the downtown type business area for the reasons that I've just explained. But then somehow that seemed to get overlooked, and it just wanted to be lumped into the rest of it, and us to get charged the same, even though we're a different ball game. Can't do the same things and have a greater cost of maintaining everything on us.
Okay, well, thanks, Gav.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, Councillor? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thompson, thank you very much for yet again coming in and speaking to us on this. It would be important for me to get an understanding of you, the individual, as I start to reflect on your submission. So I'm just making sure, I understand you have a lot of properties all across the country. You grew up in Christchurch, you live in Nelson. You were mentioning about being in Porirua. How often do you come to Porirua?
Well, previously I'd be over there every few weeks because we, as you say, we have other properties, and we'd combine a trip through Porirua and up to Wanganui. That was just part of the thing. Lately, unfortunately, I've had a few health issues and other things, and I haven't been able to get across as much as I would like. I'm planning to get over there next week, but no, we have a great interest in the area, and we try to stick up for Porirua because we think it has got a name that's not deserved in a lot of cases, and a lot of people are very surprised at the actual rating base, how many of them are in highly paid jobs, and it's not as some people perceive the area. And no, we've got a possible future development thing there at the moment, but it certainly makes you sit back and think twice, or for the economics of trying to do it, for one thing, and the other thing is, is it going to be worth it in the end anyway? But yeah.
Thank you, and thank you, Gear, for submitting. It is much appreciated by us as councillors. So thank you.
No trouble.
Councillors, thanks. Councillors will now adjourn. And no, I was just going to say, Robin Smith is not submitting today. She is withdrawn. So we will reconvene. We'll be ready here by 10:25 for a reconvening. All right, councillors, we're now back with our hearings, re-adjourning. We're going to now hear from the living wage movement. Who's going to come up? You're all going to come up, or just a couple of you? Okay, that's good. Short line out. We like short line outs. I wasn't being funny. So you know you've got 10 minutes and a bell will ring at 9 if you want questions. Just take it that we have read your submission, so if you want to keep to the main points, that'll give you more time for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Have with me today Glenn Barclay. Focus on two submission, and then we're happy to.
Kia ora. So we just want to acknowledge also that Porirua City Council is an accredited living wage employer, and the journey that you went through with us to get there, and we really appreciate that. What we're asking for now is when you're looking at the local water done well options, particularly with the new entity, if you decide to go with the new entity, that it should start its life as an accredited living wage employer. And we're asking that you set up, work with us, set up a working group to work with us to make that happen. We're making similar submissions to other councils in the region that are also living wage employers. But we've got no view on the options that you've got before you. If you do go ahead with the Wellington Water as an amended version, then we'd still like to have that. If you're going to be looking at Wellington Water, then I think it's still a good opportunity to look at whether or not Wellington Water should be an accredited employer and work with us in the same way. So that's basically it.
Oh, gosh, that was good. Councillors, do we have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Cullen.
Thank you very much. Kia ora, thank you very much for coming in. Around this idea of setting up a working group to ensure that this would happen, could you talk to us a little bit more about what you expect that to look like, what you would need from council to be able to make that happen, and have you received indication from other councils that that's something that they're willing to do?
Well, we're in the process of going around other councils, so we don't have an indication yet. I mean, I've been to Wellington and got a positive reception around the table, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do, so I don't know where they're going to land. In terms of what it might mean, a lot depends on how this is going to happen, and I imagine there's going to be some kind of establishment body or entity that will do the work, and I think we'd like to be engaged at that point with them as a working group on the side. We've just been going through an extensive working group process with Greater Wellington, who voted to become accredited living wage employer. They've got very complex contracting arrangements, so we spent a lot of time working with some of their officials to give effect to that decision of council. So it's something along those lines is what we envisaged. A small group of us, small group of officials, probably from an establishment unit, so I don't think it's going to be a great drain on the council. I think it's more a case of council supporting it happening.
Okay, cool, brilliant. And just following up on that, so just to make sure for now, the process being, we'll go through the process to figure out whether we're going to land in terms of water, and if that new entity is set up, then proactive engagement at that point would be great, just making sure that's what we're asking for. Okay, cool, brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. Yeah, is the...
No, it's just a matter of pushing the button. That makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
Well spotted, and thank you. I was just saying that I think that the living wage is now part of the kaupapa of this city. In this region, it's the kaupapa of a number of councils, with more to come. And so, you know, the questions that you're facing, the broader questions about water infrastructure, about how we've invested in the past, And at the core of the living wage is the values of investing in people.
Yeah.
And if we want that system to succeed, we need to be investing in the people in the front line who will be doing the work.
Yeah, no, thank you. And just for us to properly understand from a regional context, so some councils that have become accredited, could you update us a little bit just in terms of the other councils in the region that we would be working with if we do go with this water option? Where are they on their accreditation journey, if anywhere along it at all?
Kapiti, Hutt, Wellington and yourselves and Greater Wellington, they're not quite accredited because of the complexity of the work, but they've made that decision and are very, very close.
I see.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Councillor Hayward has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, guys, for coming in, and thank you for your submission. Noting that you've got in their discussion about a working group to talk about a day one living wage employer, what commentary can you give around making sure that there is a backstop to not only secure that commitment, but also to prevent that being changed in future through the statement of expectations or language appropriate in a charter?
Well, that's a really good idea. We haven't covered that one, Jeff, but yes, that's a really good idea. We'll take that one away.
Certainly, Councillor Hayward.
Is it possible, as part of your work with the other councils as well, to seek agreement from the other councils to ensure that there is consistency of language when we get to the discussion about the statement of expectations, considering the role that you would play as a stakeholder on behalf of workers who expect to be paid fairly for their work?
We'll certainly be looking for consistency across all councils, and this is just a starting, point for us. We expect to have further conversations as things unfold.
Any other questions, Councillor? No, there being no other questions, I just thank you, Andrew and Glenn, for coming in on behalf of the Living Wage Movement, and you others over there as well. So thank you. Do we have Kashif Khan in the room? No. So that was a submitter. I think now we'll move on. Seeing as he is not here, he may turn up later. We'll move to the Chamber of Commerce, Porirua Chamber of Commerce. If you could come forward. So you know you've got 10 questions. Bell will ring at 9. Who's speaking? You'll need to get close to the microphones. Yep. You ready? Away you go in your time.
Good to go. Thanks, Mayor Anita and councillors.
I'll just say that we'll take your submission as read, so main points and if you want questions.
Yeah, look, we're just speaking up here representing the voice of the chamber, and we're asking councils to retain funding. Last time I stood here, I was going to connect the work that we did with the chamber and how important a voice is to have representing Porirua business. So what we really want to do is look at that value proposition, which seems to be kind of a key part, which is in our submission. We've done a few bits and pieces as far as working out the hours and things that go into it on a physical level, just to really kind of add value to what we do offer. And we're looking at actual numbers that can be presented of the council for their money is probably getting over about $100,000 worth of value, determined by an internal, price on admin, etc., etc. But I'd like to just finish with one point and remind people that an example of how important lobbying from the chamber is and having that relationship. And I'd like to go to the Prosser Street debacle, which should be fresh in everyone's mind. And so during that course, we acted as a fiercely independent group representing businesses in Porirua, not just representing our members and the 1,000 employees that they represent. We actually went up, interviewed every single business. We realised there were some serious problems up there that for some reason had not come to the level of the council. And we felt that working as a partner with the council with that independent voice worked really well. We were able to shortcut the process and get directly to the right people and basically get the council and support them to get on the front foot with dealing with those businesses down there, which I think is a real value add to what we actually achieved there. So just as a reminder of that, the importance of having a fiercely independent voice, and it is great value. And I won't take up too much time with the notes that I ignored, and I'll introduce Jeremy, who's come out from, and I'll introduce Jeremy and Daniela, who have come out from Wellington to represent any questions there.
Now, the other way, yeah. So kia ora koutou, ko Jeremy Markham toku ingoa. I've got with me, so I'm the acting manager of membership and operations for Business Central, which provides support to the Porirua Chamber. And we've got Daniela Wingate, who is the boots on the ground person really that we've got, who's particularly spending a lot of time here working with local businesses. Conscious of time, but do take the documents as read, and there is some supplementary information we provided today, which I'm sure you will find useful reading to demonstrate the value of what we do. Fundamentally, the point I would like to suggest is that in continuing to invest in the chamber is the best thing for ratepayers, and fundamentally, I know that the pressure on rates is real, that people have to make tough choices, and a big driver of that is affordability. Having a thriving business environment obviously supports the creation of wealth and affordability to give people obviously the resources, so that's where it actually gets, that's the problem with, high rates, is that it's comparative to your affordability, right? So the better we can do to foster strong businesses, obviously that is strongly in your interest. But the other thing is we do provide, as the documents detail, excellent value for money. So it's things like events, things like networking, things like advocacy. We just heard about the Process Street, really making a big difference. And if you think about things like networking, you might think that that's a nice to have, but we've got story after story, and I think there's a testimonial in there about how actually, those things do actually result in some really positive outcomes, business outcomes that make a real difference. And one of the key things is, so back in, I believe, 2018, the funding was substantially higher, and then it's reduced. So the way it's to 60, so it is run very lean now. And one of the ways that enables that to happen is having Business Central, because we do these operations at scale in terms of running events and running these networking events. Our costs to do those, it is very cost effective. And that makes me think that, and it does come through in the paper, that without the funding, there is a very serious risk that the chamber will fall over. And then the question becomes, what does the council do? How can council sufficiently, and that's an important word, how does it sufficiently meet the needs of business, right? Including their independent advocacy for the same price point. So I just, I'm conscious of the fact that if we weren't here and you had to find another way, maybe that's actually going to, in the long run, would potentially incur higher costs, because we really do believe that the way we're running at the moment is quite efficient. So I guess that's, don't want to use up too much time, but that's particularly my perspective.
That's fine, Jeremy. So, councillors, questions? We'll start with Councillor Trillin, then Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for your submission. I think that the question that I want to get into here is, I don't think anyone would dispute that the chamber is valuable and that it offers a good service to the city, and that our businesses appreciate being able to engage with it. The difficulty that we have, what we're grappling with, isn't the question about whether it's valuable, but whether or not it's appropriate that it's funded by council, and acknowledging that one of the things that we hear regularly from the chamber is that council needs to focus on its core business. And so the question that I would put to you, the potentially difficult question here is, if we're focusing on core business, and to use your words, the chamber is fundamentally a lobby group, do you see that it is the core business of the council to fund a lobby group?
I don't know if focus on a lobby group should be at the top of the list of all the other services that the Chamber offers. It's certainly a profile that has a lot of exposure, but that is such a small part of it. You've got all the networking and those sorts of things that go on as well. And it is also a business support service. So what the Chamber gets for that is a fiercely sort of independent view associated like a partner working with the council. And some of those other things that are happening under the budget and under the cost of the funding, I'll use the example of Daniela, a boots on the ground, has just set up the Women in Coffee group, for example. Those type of things are very important to support a business. What businesses are looking for is to feel they're supported. We try and counter some of the frustration that a business may have dealing directly with council on various issues, and we're able to answer some of those, but most importantly, we can feed that directly to the council through the correct and proper process. And generally, it's another set of eyes on behalf of the council out in the business community. Whereas currently, the cost of being in business in Porirua is quite high, with a high rates differential, and it is service that businesses really feel comfortable having.
And I would just sort of add to that to say that, while there's a number of people in the community that may not make use of, obviously, the Chamber's services, businesses would probably, who I believe do pay quite a high rates differential, they may very well or likely actually sit in the testimonial. If you just read that testimonial, you can read that testimonial and ask yourself, do you think that person sees it as core business? And yes, it goes far beyond the lobbying, and it really is something which is core. It is essential, and it does help businesses operate. And we're not talking, if you think about the scale of how much investment we're talking here, it's we're not talking like $1 million. It's a reasonably modest spend. So I do think that's appropriate.
Can I just expand that answer? The money that the council are funding into Wellington really is covering the administration costs of actually having the ability to organise and manage things in the background. As you're probably aware, the board that sit out here, the advisory group, are volunteers. So it's really an admin cost, which we've really looked at it quite hard. A few years ago, the board ourselves asked this question about supporting how Wellington works to support, and all of us in business were not able to do the maths and make it actually beneficial. We chose as a better option and great value, and we hope that the council actually see that when they look into it.
Councillor Hayward and then Councillor Ford.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Thank you again for coming in and speaking to this. It's good to see you again, Steve. My understanding is that the funding agreement between the Chamber and the Council is for hosting specific events. Obviously, the Chamber, as part of its fiercely independent position, still receives revenue from its members to continue to do those parts of its operations. Can I get clarity that that's what we're talking about here? About the events, about the agreement is what is status quo.
I understand the events are one part of, let's say, a KPI, or there is a contract between the council and the chamber, of which we've exceeded the what's laid out in there, and events are once again just one part of it. As far as other income, people in Porirua do pay a small income to be part of it and be typical members, but in actual fact we represent all businesses, and we have done that many times.
Thank you. Councillor Ford.
Sorry, my question is a nice segue into what you've just answered. I wanted to know how much businesses pay to become or to be a part of the chamber.
Shall I answer?
Yeah, I think you can probably answer.
Tēnā koutou katoa. So currently most of our organisations are below 10 full-time employees, and the way that the membership fees work is based on your full-time employees. So most would pay for the first year $99 per year, and then after that $179 excluding GST per year. I think the most expensive is about $350 per year, which is for over 50 FTEs. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, and then how many members are there in the...
We have currently 96. It sort of fluctuates between 96 and 102.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? There being none, I just thank you for coming in. I'm Councillor Filo. We've got a couple of minutes, so yes.
Oh, I just wanted to just clarify that last point. Is that 101, 102 or 96 businesses in Porirua?
Yes, correct.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's 96 businesses who are members. Yes. Yeah. Go on, you've got.
I understand we do have some time before our next submitter, so thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I have is, knowing that there is a broad range, and thank you for the explanation, of elements, KPIs in the agreement between council and the chamber, I looked at the Prosser Street as a very good example of an ad hoc situation where advocacy from the chamber played an important role. Is there another example like that in Porirua where an ad hoc situation that the chamber can say, yeah, we made a difference in terms of making sure that that was brought to the attention of council, and wish that it had been brought to the attention of council far sooner?
If I can go a little bit back in time and look at the establishment of the Keneparu Access program, and if we can go back that, the huge amount of businesses down there were completely caught by surprise with, I will say that no one really had their hands on the steering wheel on that project at a time when they should have, and that's actually where we established quite a strong footing in the chamber to actually be part of that type of lobbying. Other projects we've been involved in, you're probably well aware of our objection to paid parking. We made that quite public. We've parking on Mana Esplanade. There's all sorts of things that just keep coming up through the business connections that our board members have with, boots on the ground businesses, and that's really how we're out there finding out all these things to bring up the chain, really.
May I also just add to that? Sorry. Part of sort of related to the advocacy is that we have been contacted on occasion by other groups in the community. So, for instance, last year we were contacted by an organisation who want to put together a climate assembly in Porirua, and we've been actively taking part in those meetings as well and contributing towards that. So,
All right. Thank you. So, no other questions from councillors. I'll thank you, Steve, Jeremy and Daniela, for coming in on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. So that now brings us to students from Tairangi School. You'll have to excuse yourself. Wrong school, I know.
Sorry, do you want me to do it?
Yeah. So you have 10 minutes, okay? So are the three students going to talk, or you're going to talk first?
I'll introduce us.
We'll introduce your students.
They're going to present a comprehensive presentation.
Oh, fantastic.
And then I just might wrap it up with a little bit of context.
Very good. So you'll have to leave a little bit of time at the end if you want us to ask questions.
Yep.
10 minutes.
Oh, we'll be well under.
All right. There you go.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Jason Miro Ataira tōku ingoa, ko puapi mate o te apu te Tairangi. My name's Jason Ataira, I'm the principal of Tairangi School, and I'm bringing three of our wonderful students along today who are going to introduce themselves when they speak. We've done a little bit of work around your long-term plan, but your suggestions for the budget. What we're doing is experiencing local democracy, and so this is an opportunity for us to see and feel what it looks like, and then they're going to tell everybody when we get back to school. I haven't told you that, but have I? What it was like, and if it's okay, I'd like to take photos of us while we're doing it. Okay, te whai? So I'm going to stop speaking. Will you?
Right, the microphone there, that's right.
You have to hold it or just push it?
No, just push it.
Jason, what do you want?
Oh, yeah. Smile. Put your hand down, girl. Yeah, smile.
So is that on? Okay, and put the other ones on as well.
The little button that says push button. Thank you.
Right, then you don't have to wait. Okay.
William.
Kia ora, ko William tōku ingoa, ko Tairangi tōku kura, e te kaumārua o koutou. Free community events should stay free because not all families can afford something expensive. Pools should stay cheap because more kids will learn how to swim better. If people learn to swim, less people will drown. If the pool is used more, then more lifeguards have jobs and they can look after their family.
Namaste, my name is Kavya. मैं अज्ञा वरणी छे मैं Tairangini Harmajam. At free community events, we learn new things and hobbies, which leads to jobs. This will help us stay in Porirua and buy houses here and look after our kids. We can learn more about our cultures. If swimming is cheap, people will learn to swim and join swimming clubs. They will have better health and less doctor's visits. Kids' attendance at school will improve when they are sickless.
Kia ora, ko Pro toku ingoa, ko Tairangi toku kura e te kaumatahi o koutou. The price should stay cheap at the pools, then more people will go. This will increase use and the council will receive more money. Free community events should stay free so we can grow our sense of community and look after each other. This would be really important during a natural disaster. Free community events should stay free so kids don't get bored and break some things that's very expensive and cost more than events.
Well done.
Thank you.
Can we give them a little clap? Just a little context, some of you might already know, in the last school holidays, multiple schools were damaged by 3 different groups of kids who all had the same brilliant idea at the same time to go around and be a bit mischief. One of the things for us is how do we get them positively engaged so that those things don't happen. What we don't want to fall into is a cycle of finding the people that do wrong and look at punishment afterwards. So trying to find events that keep our youth occupied are really important to us and could lead to really positive outcomes. Since then, we've also then been broken into and had all of our equipment stolen in the shed. So we've actually been damaged 3 times now, which is the first time that's happened in over a decade at our school. So it's just a sign of how things are a little bit tough out there and things are changing. And the more we can support our youth, I think the better outcomes that we'll have as a community. Now, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jason. We'll start with Councillor Trillin and then Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you very much for coming in. My question was, so I think all of you talked about how you wanted the free community events to stay free. And I wonder if you could tell us about if there are any community events that are your favourite events that you think are the most important.
You can list all those ones we talked about. We had a little talk about some of the events that we thought were really purposeful and meaningful for us.
Yeah.
And you can talk about those now. Kavya, go.
During like Christmas time, Matariki, or during special language weeks, do different art and activities to engage kids and adults to learn about different stuff.
Great. We talked a little bit about what we might like to do at those events. Can you remember that, Pearl? We tried to do some problem solving around this as well. Remember about when we're there, what we might like to learn and what that could lead into and who could help teach us? Remember we talked about getting community groups to come in with present or teach us to use Porirua. They're just a bit nervous.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Don't worry.
And that's been very helpful. Thank you very much.
We just talked about maybe reaching into our community who already have community events like our kapahaka groups or performing arts groups and asking if they would like to come and run some lessons for the community to participate in during those events. So on Matariki Day, we could learn how to use rākau or poi, and it's not just a show, which is lovely, but it's actually the community learning how to use those and then how to connect with them after the event so that we join clubs and we're more actively engaged outside of school time as well.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Hayward and then Councillor Ford.
Kia ora no. Kia ora, Jason. Good to see you, bro. I have questions for you, but I'll do those offline. Kia ora, William. Kawhia. Peara, is that Pearl? Pearl? Yeah. Yep. Tēnā koutou. Namaste. I wanted to ask about your personal experiences of swimming and in Porirua or being on the water. Can you tell me what comes to mind as the best experience you've had on the water here in Porirua?
Maybe talk about the suggestions we had for the pool. Are we talking about the pools? Yeah. Go on.
My experience about the pools, it really helped me improve more for swimming. I gradually got better and better the more I went swimming.
Very good.
Can you remember what we talked about to get more kids to the pool more often? Go, Kavia.
Maybe adding some days we have pool activities like floats or like different like pool toys in the pool more often.
We were more speaking specifically about Cannons Creek rather than this side. Yep. Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, moto whakautu mo taku pātai. Kia ora, thank you very much.
Kia ora, Chief.
Councillor Ford.
Kia ora nā.
Kia ora nā.
Jason, William, Pearl, and Kavia. Who does the best manu? You guys all gave it a crack, maybe?
Cannons Creek pool's a bit shallow, eh, kids? One of the suggestions was digging at the bottom. I said, oh, that might cost a bit more than you think, kids.
My question was around the matariki, and you did have a suggestion. We have a program that we run here out of the arena where the schools are invited to come along. So I take it that you guys are part of it.
Yeah, a whole school participated in it last year, and we've got some classes participating in it this year, and it was absolutely outstanding. I guess what our conversation was about during school term and during school time, kids are mostly actively engaged, and it's so how do we leverage some of those opportunities into out of school time and especially the school holidays when the kids get bored. And so that's where we were thinking if the activities led us to participate with a club that we then connected with and then carried on with, it would lead to really good positive health outcomes. And what happens if we have good health outcomes? Kavia, it was in your speech.
There's higher attendance for kids.
Yeah, cool. We're sick less often, we're more actively engaged, less doctor's visits, we're at school more often. So those were some things about transitioning from it just being an event at that time to how do we get longitudinal benefit from that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll be real quick. Sorry. So events and school holidays, so that it's more like a holiday program for them to attend.
Yeah. I think be careful about holiday programs because generally speaking, those who are well planned with their kids get into those, and it's the kids who are sort of left to their own devices that we're trying to target. And I think historically the council's done some really innovative stuff, and it could be great to revisit some of those. We've got kids who would love to come and hang out with a DJ who's making music live at a space. I think we also talked about sometimes it's challenging for the east side to come over to events that are only here at Pātaka, so how do we spread those events over there? Or have we considered about providing buses for those events from the east to the west and funding it in that way so that more of our community can come across?
Do you use the council bus already?
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
really well used. Thank you. It's a great benefit to us. Helps with our swimming. We're doing swimming lessons at the moment. Swimming lessons cost me $1 per child per lesson, so it cost me $8 for a kid, which is about $1,200 for my school. The bus, if I don't get the free bus, will cost me about $5,000. So the barrier to swimming lessons is less the pool, more the transportation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I'd just like to thank you all, Jason, Pearl, William and Kavia, for coming in. You're very brave to come in.
Yes.
Not you, Jason, you're used to it. But the pupils. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yay.
Thank you. Good job. Well, eyeballing the jar outside.
What are we giving sweets for turning
I was
up
going
now?
to say, Jason, do they want to come and have a quick photo with us all? Because I know that's what you're after. Come round. You come round, then you can take it. From them.
We're adjourning the meeting. meeting. That brings us to the end of submissions for that part of the annual plan and local water done well. I'm now want to put the motion to the vote. I'll just remind you of the recommendations. The recommendations: receive the report, receive 10 oral submissions we've had this morning, receive the 317 written submissions and the 24 video submissions, and also 2 late submissions. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Well done. Thank you. That moves us to item 7.2. This is hearings for the proposed rating policy. I'm now going to move the report and open it for discussion, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Remember, not here.
Not here, no.
So what we have, Joel Ellie Carberry Smith was meant to be here, but is not. So we have no submitters who want to turn up in person.
It's bang on 11.
Okay, we'll wait till I'm going to adjourn to 11:05. Now reconvene as it's 11:05. We still do not have our submitter in person. So what I'm going to do, we've moved this. I'm going to move the recommendations that we receive the report and receive the 6 written submissions. So all those in favour? Those against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll now move to 8. I'm going to move a resolution that we exclude the public to confirm the public excluded minutes of the previous TPK meeting, seconded by Councillor Ford. All those in favour, yes?